The 17th century philosopher and mathematician Blaise Pascal constructed a unique, logical argument for why one ought to believe in God, commonly referred to as Pascal's wager. Disclaimer: this is not an endorsement of the view, but a presentation of it. It works like this. You must make a bet. Either A, you believe God exists, or B, you do not believe God exists. Each of option A and B leads to two further possible outcomes. Either 1, God exists, or 2, God does not exist. This leaves us with a total of 4 possible outcomes. You believe in God and God either actually does exist or does not exist, or you don't believe in God and God actually does not exist, or God does indeed exist. From this matrix, it appears that the best choice is to believe that God exists. This is because if God exists and you also believe in God's existence, you will be presumably rewarded with an amazing afterlife full of infinite gains. Alternatively, if God exists and you do not believe in God's existence, you will be punished with eternal damnation. Believing in God only to find out that God never really existed results in a finite loss, determined by all of the time and energy spent abiding by how a non-existent being would want you to live your life. Not believing in God and discovering that God also does not exist results in a finite gain, determined by all of the time and energy you got to spend living your life exactly the way you and only you chose. I think we can all agree that infinite gain is always better than infinite loss. Additionally, anything finite, whether a loss or a gain, is always subverted by the infinite. With that in mind, we can see that infinite gain is preferred to all other potential outcomes. Therefore, Pascal's wager concludes that one ought to believe in God. To put Pascal's wager under a modern light, consider the following. You are a terminally ill patient with merely 6 months left to live. Although it is certain that at the end of the next 6 months you will die, your quality of life will be adequate in that you won't be suffering. Besides the fact that, you're dying, the next 6 months will carry on just as they have been. This may sound like a grim scenario, with all things considered, but you have the potential to live your life to the fullest during these 6 months. You can have as much fun as you want, take care of any affairs, and check any desire off of your bucket list. Before you get too set on checking off items from your bucket list, your doctor approaches you with a possible solution to your predicament. Your doctor presents you with a highly experimental pill that, in theory, would entirely cure you of your terminal illness. However, the pill has just one caveat. Upon ingestion, there's a 50% chance that the pill entirely cures you, and you are free to live out the rest of your life however you see fit. No pain, no suffering, just you and the world. Unfortunately, there's also a 50% chance that the pill will worsen your condition to the point where those final 6 months of your life are lived out in excruciating pain. Outcome 1, take the pill and be cured. Outcome 2, take the pill and live out your remaining 6 months in pain. So, would you take the pill? On the one hand, you have to weigh the possibility of years of a life well lived versus only 6 months. On the other hand, you must weigh the current reality that you're not suffering and that your ability to live out your 6-month life to its fullest potential is guaranteed. Are you willing to risk your limited time for the possibility of a lifetime of health? Although refusing to gamble by not taking the pill at all, and thereby living out your 6-month life, seems like a semi-reasonable choice, it is likely that this option is not your frontrunner. Odds are, you are of the disposition that if your time is limited anyway, then you may as well fight to survive. Yes, you'll risk spending your remaining months alive in an unsufferable state, but the possible reward of life free of illness is so much greater than the suffering you might endure. While multiple possibilities exist based upon your decision to take the experimental pill or not, there really only seems to be one choice with a risk-to-reward ratio that is worth considering. Based upon your decision to either believe or not believe in a God figure, there are seemingly 4 possible outcomes which, in theory, are all equally likely to occur. However, based upon the risk-to-reward ratio that exists from some of the scenarios, i.e., an eternal life of bliss versus an eternal life of damnation, it seems that the best choice, and really the only choice in Pascal's opinion, is to choose to believe in God. Similarly to the experimental pill scenario, you are risking a finite amount of time on Earth versus an endless life of salvation. There is no way to abstain from these choices. Everyone, yourself included, must gamble. So what will you do? Do you take the pill? Do you choose to believe in God?